This one is a very basic, very simple one that you can do with very little failures. And I want to do a tutorial on how to do it, but before we do that, let's talk about the variety of ways you can color it and how it can go together. So I have a few examples. This is in a monochromatic, and you can see I did a dark space on this edge and a dark in the pinches. And then I also left a white spot as a highlight on all the sides. And this is what it would look like if you did a rainbow of colors. And then I really leaned into the dark spaces, and then I took a white colored pencil and added some highlights to that one. And another really common way to use this pattern is filling it in black and white. In order to do that, I drew a line mapping out my space. You can see my pencil mark right there, so that I created this highlight. So all of these are the exact same drawing in different forms. And if you are interested in practicing this exact same drawing, you can. You can follow the link down below to my website, buy a copy of it for about the price of a cup of tea. But I want to talk about how to actually draw this pattern. All we are doing is wavy lines all throughout the page or throughout the space that you're drawing on. And there's two ways to draw your wavy lines. You can either draw them where they mirror each other like this. See how they're in opposites dancing together? Or we can just do it really random, however you feel is appropriate. And then there's actually one more way you could do it. You can make it weave through the other. So this one hangs out over the edge of that one. This one is going to be a little woven in, and then we're going to make this one go big, and then see I just made it end right there. So now I can do another pattern here. Now the one thing about doing patterns like this is we get into a tricky space, because when you're doing this pattern, your first step is to do wavy lines all through the page. Your next step is to draw the curves. Now the curves are going to go up like a rainbow, like making an arch all the way up, and then they're going to go down like the letter U all the way on the other side. So up, down, up, down, up, down. But when you make them like this, you run into a situation where this is going to go up, this one's going to go down, but then if this goes up and this is up, this is touching each other, or if this goes down and this is down, they're touching each other. So at that point you have to decide which way you want to go based on which one makes the most contact. So when drawing this, I always start in the most interesting part first and let it build out from there. And I like to curve it on the edges so it looks like it's wrapping around, and I like to have it spaced out in the middle and coming closer together as we get into the pinched spot. So we're building a little bit of a language. See how this is tighter and then it airs out, and then we're going to bring it in tighter again on this pinched spot. So that shows you a little bit of the volume of the drawing. Another thing you can do is, I started right here with a little bit more of a hook on this edge, is your arch does not have to be even. And when you make it not even, the eye kind of understands it's a little bit flatter on this side and it's arching on that side. So that's another little sneaky thing you can do. And you can get very dynamic with that. See how we just added a weird little fold in here unexpectedly? And then when you're doing your highlights, you can choose to highlight right in this spot on the high of the arch and highlight right there, and then you can choose to make it really dark right in this dip to really help it mold. We're going to go like a rainbow all the way through this line. And then on your next row, you're going to go the opposite direction, and that's what's going to carve out your space, the fact that it goes in opposites. So I like to take my start where it's most visually interesting and build from there to make sure that I really get that area the best. Oh, and another thing is, when I go around these curves, sometimes I like to fan it. So I'm tighter on this side and then wider on that side. that the inner curve is going to have the lines closer together and the outer curve is going to fan out, stretch out. And that can give me some interesting, unexpected variety in my lines. So now we're fanning out the opposite direction. The tighter side is the inner curve and the fanned out space is the outer curve. And you can see that my lines on this one do not line up with my lines on that one, and that's okay. I think it's actually better if they don't match up perfectly. You can choose to add a space in the same spot every single time, and that can create a highlight. Or you can choose to do that later like I did during the coloring phase, because I feel like it can be hard to track your arches, how you want your arches to go, and keep that highlight. The way that it is taught on the internet is that you add your shadows wherever it is pinched, and that'll make it appear 3D. But when I was coloring these in, I noticed that that didn't quite sit right for me. You can see it in the pinch, but I noticed that if this is going to be 3D, technically deep in the grooves is going to be the darkest spot. So if I have a big curve, right on this edge of a big balloon is where I'm going to see the most dark spots. And on top of that, the sun is going to go at an angle, and so your shadow is always going to be heavier on one side versus the other side. So when shadowing, ideally, we would make the shadow darkest on these big grooves on one side. And you can see I did that on this one, that this side is the darkest, this side is the lightest, so it looks like the sun's hitting. And then I picked the top ridge where it seems like the highest arch is where I put my highlight, but I could have moved my highlight over here to match my shadows. And then I also did a dark right in the point, right where things get tight. But it gets a little murky like right in this area, but I have multiple tight points buried together. I have a hard time drawing and keeping a gap as I'm drawing, so afterwards I go through and I draw a shape of my ridge and then I color in the space. But what that's going to do is that's going to leave a little white line in each of your spaces that makes it a little less clean. It would be nice if that line wasn't there at all. And I noticed when the line is really tight, that kind of looks more exciting than when the line is really big. But maybe a variety is really good. And you can see I made a mistake here, but I never throw away the whole piece over one mistake. If I make a mistake, like right in this spot, I just keep going and try to minimize the attention on that spot. Never give up, because sometimes that will take you a direction you didn't expect, and sometimes in the end it's just one little mark that didn't really make a difference. It doesn't matter. That is the basics of how to draw this. You just got to draw the curves, draw your wiggly lines, and then go back in and draw your U's and your rainbows, going opposite directions with every single line. And then you go back in and you add your shading in the points where it tightens, and then also in the extreme curve spots on the edges. And even just a light touch makes a big difference on the entire page. And then if you want to go back in with color after that, how you choose to color it makes a big difference in what the end result is. So that's the tutorial. Super easy pattern, easy to use in any drawing on the fly without a plan. Oh, and if you have, see how these look kind of like snakes, like they're very even. I think these bobbles where they get big and small are much more dynamic than just a long snake. But that's another choice of, do you want it to bobble where it gets fat and thin, or do you want it to be even all the way through? So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to go ahead and post my time lapses as well so you can see how they were painted if that's your thing. And if you are interested in coloring my drawings, since you've seen how I approached it and you have your own ideas, check down in the comments below in the description. I've got the link to my website. You can easily download it and print it out. And I am on a journey of discovering as many patterns as I can to try and enhance my vocabulary of patterns mark making in my drawings. If you are interested, please like and subscribe. I would love to have you follow along the journey. Thanks for watching, guys.